The future acclaimed swordsman was on a battlefield, waking up to countless lifeless bodies, sacrificed in combat. And it's almost like teqezo understood the situation all too well, because this was the Battle of Sekigahara, an historical moment for us, although for teqezo, it's just another day. His friend Matahachi wasn't acclimated to the warrior lifestyle as teqezo, and it was made clear to show the difference of character and borderline deep desires and ideals. His best friend Matahachi had nowhere close to the resolve needed to continue being an asset to teqezo. When Matahachi is faced with immediate death, he cowers and attempts to flee, in contrast to teqezo. The thought of fleeing was miles from his mind. The only thought persisting was kill, push, move, overcome. Nothing Matahachi is familiar with. That was the reason teqezo was known as being this demon, savage, a beast in human form. Only if he knew how pivotal this mindset would be for his mental fortitude, for the near insurmountable walls he must overcome in his future. After passing out and waking up, teqezo and Matahachi was abducted by two girls, one being portrayed as an extrovert and the other an introvert. Matahachi was far too relaxed and carefree, not finding any reason to be on high alert, finding the charm of them enchanting and welcoming. teqezo, as I said earlier, is a warrior through and through, and as standoffish as it may seem, it will be rewarding later. Even the shy girl was curious with teqezo because of his apathetic feelings and actions towards them. In complete contrast to teqezo, Matahachi was more of an annoyance because of the frequent questions and attention seeking. teqezo did ask one question: "What were you doing the night you rescued us?" That question only answer is it must be thieves. With countless corpses around the battlefield of Sekigahara, there's only one reason a small girl would be out there after dark, with the reveal the girls being thieves. That was going to be the least of their problems. It seems the girls have been warned about being in Sekigahara by a gang, and not listening really shows you the mindset most had in the Edo period. The four seemed to acclimate well for the meantime, with teqezo not deviating from progressing. He begins inspecting a wood sword and already says he wants it. And the extroverted girl never missed a moment to sway things in her favor. teqezo started to relax despite his better judgment. He was vulnerable to attacks from the outside and inside. In his dream, he was facing the most defining and smoldering memories of his father, because whenever teqezo shows any vulnerability to his father, he's only met with bitterness and hatred. Waking up from this startling dream, he was alert. However, some situations, your resolve is tested. Some physical, others are mental. teqezo staying focused and not wanting to indulge her manipulation angered her. However, none of it mattered anyways, because the Tsujikaze gang arrived and made their intentions crystal clear. They were taking what they wanted and was not afraid of killing. The leader of the Tsujikaze gang wasn't as dumb as he looked, and was able to catch on to the obvious bait. He was livid and took out all his frustration on teqezo, until the unfazed teqezo bit off a chunk of his flesh from his right hand and struck him across the face with a wooden blade. The Tsujikaze gang member was realizing that there's a possibility he will die at the hands of the young man he just moments ago considered a twerp. In the other room, Matahachi was pumped with enough adrenaline to defend himself well against the gang, forcing them to run even the boss himself. Essentially, the hunter has become the hunted. The coward was running, and think about how much he underestimated this kid, this devil, this beast. Their battle was resolved with them both thinking the gang was weak, and they came to the same conclusion that Hoiden Marahachi and Shinman Teqezo from the village of Miyamoto and Sakushu will take anyone on. After this, Teqezo wastes no time proclaiming he's going to be a vagabond and intends to follow this path alone, not letting Manahachi or anyone slow him down. Teqezo even ran into the rest of the gang and was giving a warm welcoming for killing their boss. Teqezo being forced to defend himself, we see him take on multiple men without much difficulty. Meanwhile, Manahachi was resistant and finding excuses to not go help his best friend in a life and death situation. Although for Teqezo, this is nothing. Teqezo was under the impression that his childhood and only female friend Otsu was taken or killed by the gang members. So he continues to fight until they're all dead. The situation getting more and more desperate for the gang members to even defend themselves properly against Teqezo's attacks. After Teqezo finishes killing all the men, he was shouting for his best friend Manahachi, hoping to get any response, but Manahachi was laying with Oko, while Teqezo was killing all the gang members and risking his life under the impression that Otsu was killed or taken. Teqezo managed to kill all the men, only to find a scarf and a comb in the ground, and thinking of where Manahachi went. Teqezo returns to Miyamoto village to tell Manahachi's mother he's still alive, and to see Otsu before he goes on his self-discovery journey, only to see that he's wanted in Miyamoto village because Manahachi's mother blamed Teqezo for Manahachi not returning, not fully seeing her son for who he is. Or maybe she does, and that's a boy, not a man with a purpose like Teqezo. Even Manahachi's mother understood this deep down, and when even she warned the soldiers that capturing Teqezo won't be an easy feat, by a stroke of luck he ran into Otsu, but wasn't able to talk because it was a startling encounter. Teqezo flees in response to Otsu's scream, alerting the soldiers to his location. After some time has passed, we see Manahachi's mother praying for Manahachi's return. She felt a similar presence outside her door, and when she opened, she sees Teqezo instead of her son. Teqezo rushing to her house to tell her her son is still alive, but she was interrupted by the blade whooshing past her face with her declaration, "I'll kill you, then I can die. I'll kill myself after I kill you." The startled Teqezo dodges and tell her Manahachi is still alive. Manahachi's mother, being in disbelief of the news that her son is still alive, and decided to go to different province with another woman named Oko instead of his soon-to-be wife and childhood friend to Teqezo, Otsu. The letter she received was in fact from Manahachi simply telling her to move on, to forget about him, and he found another woman, and the thought of Otsu was a burden to him. In response to reading this betrayal of a letter, Manahachi had his mistress send for him. The effects of this cowardly decision caused Otsu to break down in tears and bite her right wrist, hoping to feel any other pain besides the pain in her heart. Meanwhile, Manahachi's mother seemingly had a change of heart towards Teqezo. The change was so sudden, Teqezo was questioning if only for Manahachi's mother to say, "You are my beloved son's friend," and offered him her son's clothes after the bath she suggested, only to stall him for the ambush she's setting up to kill him. She asked him what were his plans now, but Teqezo responding with, "I'm going to journey all across the country to polish my skills as a swordsman. I want to challenge men like Yagu and Yoshiaka, all the master swordsmen renowned throughout the land. I want to find out how strong I really am." But after this declaration, he noticed the situation he's currently in, and Manahachi's mother feeling satisfied her plan is about to work, only for Teqezo to kick the door open, glaring at Manahachi's mother for her deception. She still believes there's no way teqezo can leave this area alive, and he should give up, and that only the Miyamoto village doesn't need any troublemakers, and that teqezo was a demon. Only if she knew. For the next 1 minute and 48 seconds, she would see what she just said he was to be: a beast. At the same time, Otsu is distraught over the news her future husband, she hasn't seen in a year, has moved on with another woman. He runs away to ring the bell in Miyamoto village, cursing Matahachi's name. Meanwhile, teqezo is fending them off one by one and warning them if they continue, they will be killed. The resolve teqezo showed in the face of life and death was impressive. Most attribute that resolve to him being a demon because of how merciless he is, but in this behavior, anything different than what any of us are capable of? teqezo continues to cut them down while the captain thinks to himself that there's no way teqezo can withstand this much force, and then the next instant he finds himself unconscious from teqezo's blow, with teqezo looking at Matahachi's mother and telling her she's untrustworthy, just as her son. teqezo was interrupted by an attack from behind, but defended himself and continues his carnage. One of the soldiers desperately asking how teqezo can be so heartless and take so many lives, and telling him he's a disgrace to Miyamoto village. Musashi was distracted a bit from that statement, causing him to get caught, but using the body as a shield, he defended himself from the wooden spears being thrusted towards him, only to slam the corpse being used as a shield on the ground, to be called again a demon. He now fully embraces the nickname and runs away, finding no need to continue. While running, he trips over a strip string designed to catch a bear or a deer or a boar. With the person setting this trap being portrayed as a monk, teqezo was instantly on guard, feeling the presence of the monk. The monk tells teqezo he may be big, but his heart is small, with teqezo telling him he will kill him even though he's a monk. The monk, however, retorts with, "You will cut me down even if I touch you? You keep your nerves on edge and you're always ready to lash out. You distance yourself. It's because you're afraid of people. You are the weakest person in this village." With teqezo leaving, the soldiers hunting him drew closer, asking the monk where teqezo went, and the monk pointing them in the right direction. With the current troops and reinforcements scouring the lands, they were unable to find teqezo. Otsu, still very upset from the betrayal from Matahachi, is crying under a tree, where the monk approached her and confronts her and goes with her to ask the captain how would he capture teqezo if he's drinking all day. The captain, having his pride damaged, draws his sword, proclaiming he will cut down the monk, and the monk simply responding with, "Is it even possible for the incompetent captain to cut me down?" On the other hand, teqezo was wandering around the forest trying to find something to eat, and thinking about his encounter with the monk, and thinking about why he came back to Miyamoto village, before he was suddenly ambushed by the Suzikaze Koei, who tracked him down. teqezo to get revenge for his brother's death. teqezo granddad Koei for trying to kill him. teqezo then stabs him in the left thigh, with Kohei's knee-jerk reaction being to get distance and throw a shuriken to no avail, because teqezo managed to blow it with his right forearm. He meant to block it with his right forearm. teqezo wants all the smoke with Koei. Koei swiftly cuts teqezo's left forearm and tells him to give it up and no one will miss him, and that he will end up like the people he was killed, like the people he has killed. You can't be any different. Dodging teqezo's strike and telling him he's not there to get revenge on his brother, but there because teqezo took his kill. teqezo understood the circle of life and accepts the time when he will eventually die. But for Koei, it's his time now. teqezo almost lands a near fatal blow, shocking Koei, and at the same time a villager spouting teqezo and alerting the rest to his location. Koei decided to retreat. teqezo is now surrounded by the soldiers, and he's self-reflecting on how long he's lived and the meaning for it. Now going on the offensive, he begins to throttle the soldiers that continue to attack him and curse him in spite of this. Teqezo continues his onslaught until he was alone, surrounded by their corpses. He begins to reflect and wonder what's next, but understanding regardless how he's perceived, it won't change the fact that after the killing he's doing, he will die, and it's that simple. Back to the monk in Otsu. The monk was not intimidated by the drunk captain, and begins to mock and belittle his intelligence, with Otsu trying to defend his actions. The monk then begins to control the situation, even more by switching to focus to Teqezo, and not even paying attention to him anymore, and explaining how having normal civilians hunt down Teqezo was foolish, and makes him more incompetent than he already is. He goes on to tell Otsu she should go to the mountains to capture Teqezo, and he goes on to not only insult him by saying that the woman he tried to force himself on finds him repulsive, but also that he's taking his sweet time drawing that sword. Being forced at this point to try slashing the monk, but misses and is confused, with the monk explanation being his hips causing the miss, and vital blow only scathing the monk. Only then did his people come to see what's going on, screaming his name Takuan, and the captain slowly realizes that this isn't a normal monk, but the close friend to the lord of the castle, Takuan, then tells the captain that his actions are unforgivable, giving up so many lives to capture Teqezo, only to fail. He then asks Otsu if she's afraid of Teqezo, with her response being not at all, and Takuan saying she will be the one to capture Teqezo. Matahachi's mom was angry the search was called off for Teqezo, but was told that Takuan put his life on the line to rescue Teqezo, with Otsu with her questioning Takuan, why would he make a promise like that? When Takuan and Otsu was walking through the woods, Otsu was startled by the dead man Teqezo killed. With them both then praying for Teqezo's sake, he would be forgiven. Later to be seen cooking and creating enough smoke filled with the stew, they were eating it. It did in fact get Teqezo's attention. Takuan noticed that Otsu was upset and asked her to tell him what's upsetting her, and she tells him about Matahachi. And he asks her what did she like about him. Instead of talking about Matahachi, she brings up Teqezo, and how he always was alone in the mountains, and how she was 13. Teqezo took the sign, all the men sign, as being the strongest, and used that sign to beat up one of the men, and how the whole town was afraid of Teqezo, except Matahachi, and that was the reason she loved him, because she wasn't the only person to care for Teqezo. Takuan was a little bit bewildered because of the indirect love she had for Teqezo. And while they were eating, Takuan seemed to already know Teqezo was approaching, hungry and tired. Takuan asked him to sit and relax, but Teqezo on alert, but he is already dehydrated and his vision is blurry, but he could barely make out Otsu and ask her why she's here. And Takuan tells Teqezo they are here to capture him. Teqezo tries to get ready to defend himself, but begins to hallucinate all the people he has killed, killing them all one by one, one by one, one by one by one. When he starts to focus, he asks Otsu if she's just like the rest of them, and the gentle response she gave him was just like when they were kids. And she now runs and hugs him, not fearing for her life one bit, while crying and sobbing. She was telling Teqezo how bad Matahachi made her feel, that feeling of abandonment. Takuan, talking to himself, is reaffirming his decision to bring back Teqezo alive, and Otsu being the only person capable of that. It warmed Takuan's heart, and Teqezo was so relaxed he fell asleep. And now Otsu managing to capture Teqezo unharmed. Teqezo wakes up hanging from a tree, tied up by Takuan, asking him why didn't he kill him. With Takuan glad he's still alive, Teqezo wanted to die and put him out of his misery, because he's always understood this day could happen, and he already came to peace with it. Takuan tells Otsu to not go out there because she would be tempted to cut him down. Teqezo She feels like she betrayed him, but Takuan reassures her he doesn't hold this against her. Matahachi's mother stands below teqezo, smiling and happy at his current situation, telling him all the hateful feelings she has for him and checking every day until he's dead. And teqezo simply wants Takuan to kill him because he's just reflecting on all the grief he's feeling and remorse, and him remembering the promise he made to himself to become strong, invincible under his sun. Osu comes out to finally see teqezo and tries to feed him some food. She snuck out, but accidentally hits teqezo with the stick, and the food falls to the ground, only for Takuan to step outside to check if teqezo was still alive and walk back inside. teqezo is at his breaking point. He wants to die and doesn't understand why Takuan is refusing to kill him. And like clockwork, Matahachi's mom checks to see if teqezo is still alive and goes to talk to Takuan and Otsu, pleading for her to join her family to protect her, and wasn't really giving her a choice in the end. But Otsu, despite that, refuses her offer because she hated Matahachi for what he did and cannot be a part of his family. teqezo was able to her and was happy for her. Matahachi's mom wasn't too happy with that because she was hurt by it. Takuan, he goes outside, and teqezo wanted Takuan to kill him so bad he was using all his energy to show that. But Takuan is telling him to look at himself, and what is there besides darkness? Nothing. Only for light to come into his life with Otsu bringing him food again, and because of this light, this time he's trying to eat it instead of rejecting it. But it was another failed attempt. teqezo, now being so close to death, he's now surrounded by crows. Takuan tells him that wanting to die a warrior's death is selfish, and every life he took had their own life, and whether or not it was good or not, everyone is born and they grow. Some have pets, some don't. Others have dreams they want to overcome and achieve. Some have simple families. You took those lives, teqezo. Do you really think you deserve an honorable life? That's selfish, teqezo. It's raining. It seems even the heavens won't allow you to parch death. He walks away. teqezo reflects on what strength is, and remembering telling his dad he wanted to be the strongest, and his father telling him to draw his blade and kill him right then and there. Only one can be invincible under the sun. Knowing teqezo was the son, he knew teqezo had the potential to kill him. Drawing his sword and only cutting teqezo's hair, teqezo was so shocked he urinated but didn't move an inch, which impressed his father. teqezo began to cry, thinking about that memory and everything that came after that day, only for one of his enemies to arrive, Suzikaze Koei. Koei is perplexed how teqezo is still alive and questions why he's special enough to still be alive. Koei cuts teqezo down and then attempts to finish him, but Takuan aura stopped him dead in his tracks from doing anything further with teqezo. Koei wanted to know who that monk was that startled him, because he defeated him with only his mind. The next day, Matahachi's mom goes to see teqezo and is shocked he is gone, and goes into the house to ask what happened, not believing he's dead yet, but she is then told he was dead. Dumbfounded, she couldn't believe it, and thinks Takuan is behind it all in Otsu. We see Takuan carrying teqezo in the woods, and tells him he will let him decide where he wants to die. And teqezo choosing a nice hill not far from Miyamoto village to die, and told Takuan to kill him. And Takuan asked him if that's what he wanted. You're shrouded in darkness of all the people you killed, but you should be happy, right? Because you get to die now. Go ahead and be happy about everything you've done, all the people you killed. teqezo, just wanting all this pain to just end, is crying, and Takuan wants teqezo to acknowledge his actions. teqezo, finally listening, begins to smash his head into a boulder to ask himself, why was he born? What was it all for? But Takuan stops him and asks, will you just kill yourself and throw away your old self? Is a life filled with such hate and murder be honorable? No, that life is not for you, teqezo. Teqezo is really taking it all in now, and Takemon cuts him loose and tells him there is no light for those who do not know darkness. Live on, Teqezo. Being light is coming your way. Takemon tells him Shinman Teqezo is dead, and the village of Miyamoto will think he died here today. And he tells him to never forget where he came from, and from now on, he shall be called Musashi Miyamoto.